D&D's economy is a broken mess, which has caused you to overprice a bounty, and somehow the party that was almost TPK'd by a medium-sized frog has managed to outsmart, capture, and force a confession out of an up-and-coming mob boss. With their 10,000 gold in hand, 2 of the party members want to invest their money into a local business. A third starts to panic that D&D is going to become some sort of spreadsheet simulator, and the 4th is there just wanting to get drunk. So in your desperation, you turn to page 129 of the DMG to see what the official rules say. There's almost nothing about startup costs unless you're wanting to build a fort. It has some tables for running costs that completely contradict the hiring costs in the PHB. And your potential profit and losses can vary between 150 gold pieces and minus 11,600 gold pieces. I think we can do better. So, if I'm going to spend some time developing some D&D businesses, I want them to be able to do the following. Accommodate players' weird ideas, give players meaningful decisions that affect their businesses and the wider world, feel like an extension of D&D and not something that's awkwardly tacked on, have the business be flexible enough to fit with the weird timings of my world, and not take more than about 5 minutes of my prep time. I assume your business is vaguely viable and not selling ice cream in Icewind Dale. But then again, if you're happy with that and it suits your table, you do you. Additionally, I'm assuming you're already tracking a few things like time and reputation. And if you're not... The most important thing to track is time. I run a slower rate of encounters than the PHB suggests. My campaign's also not suited to long downtime breaks between adventures, so if everything is scalable to days, I can easily adjust from there. I also already track the party's reputation among various groups. Each group has a special reputation ability score that represents their feelings towards the party. This modifier is then added to any roll the party makes whilst interacting with a representative of that group. Every time the party helps or hinders that group, their reputation score goes up or down by 1. It's a bit like the optional loyalty rule from the DMG, but actually useful. If you don't already track reputation, you're going to want to start. And specifically, there's 4 different groups you're going to want to track. The customer, which I'm going to use my already established public reputation. Do the villagers hate you? Well, now your business is going to suffer. Staff, seems like an obvious one. This is going to be new. Whoever's running the business, this is going to track them. The better they're treated, the harder they work. The regulators. For me, this is going to be the government, and I'm just going to tie it to the government stat that I already have. But in your world, it may be closer to like a king, a patron, or a relevant guild that they're part of. And finally, supplier. This represents anyone else the party has to interact with to make their business work. I'm going to run this as their reputation amongst other businesses. You may want to run it against other guilds. Do whatever seems appropriate for your table. So, how much should stuff cost? Well, as I said before, D&D's economy is a complete mess, and I don't plan on rebuilding it from the ground up. So we're going to work with what we've got. In my case, I've got 3 different situations that I need to accommodate for. First, 2 players want to invest in a shipping business and asked how much it would cost to start up something. The cost of a sailing ship or a long ship, which is for shipping both cargo and people respectively, is 10,000 gold, according to the DMG. As I feel that this would be the main cost of a shipping business, that is going to be the minimum buy-in. Alternatively, a keelboat costs 3,000 gold, so if they want to start a fishing business, that's going to be their initial setup cost. Just a side note, having looked at the DMG, to repair a ship it costs 20 gold a day, so I'm going to assume half of that is wage and half of that is everything else. So if my players want to start a shipwright company, I'm going to charge them 5,000 gold. And as they've come to me asking what businesses they can invest in this small fishing town, these are the options I'm going to give them. My next player approached things differently. She wanted to spend 100 gold on a super fancy rowboat and some fishing gear. She then wanted to hire a local fisherman to catch and sell fish for her. Paid him 6 gold in advance, which is 1 month of unskilled labor according to the PHB, and now she has her fishing business worth 100 gold pieces. Arguably, this could be done for less, but I think for reasons I'll get to later, 100 should be the minimum buy-in. If a player wants to do something more complicated than this, I suggest you tell them to do it between sessions, give you the breakdown of everything they want to buy, make them look up the cost of things. If you feel it's too little, you can just say, well, I'm adjusting the prices for my world. If you spend an additional 1,000, then we'll call it good. The final player wanted to do something different. They had taken over a semi-destroyed tavern, and they wanted to restore it and turn that into a new tavern. The DMG has no cost for taverns, but given the price of a guild hall or outpost, I ballparked a tavern of that size should be worth 3,000. Because it's semi-destroyed, I halved that, told them that's what it was currently worth, and that they would need to spend another 1,500 to restore it to be a functional tavern. This left the party with very little gold left over, which brings us to... There are many potential running costs we could calculate, but we're not going for realism, we're going for fun, quick and simple. Therefore, the only running costs we should go for are staff wages. Every other running cost will be accounted for within the profits and losses. Okay, we're going to try and keep it simple. However much your players have spent to start up the business is their total investment, and that divided by 500 is going to equal the minimum amount of daily wages that need to be paid. For the fishing business, that's going to be 2 silver, or 1 unskilled labourer. For the inn, once it's done up, there's going to be 6 gold per day, or 2 skilled labourers and 10 unskilled. For the 10,000 gold shipping business, labour will either be 10 skilled sailors or 5 skilled sailors and 25 unskilled. Doesn't really matter. The important part though is they're paying 20 gold per day in wages to keep the business running smoothly. For each business, I would also have at least 1 named worker that can be used to give feedback about the attitude of the staff, and maybe even how well the business is doing. Like I've said before, what's the point of playing D&D if you're not rolling dice? So here's how we're going to do it. One player is going to roll a d20. You'll then secretly add the bonuses from supplier, customer, staff, regulator, and then consult this convenient little graph. This graph will give you a number that you multiply the total investment by. You then multiply that number by the number of days it's been. This way it's just as quick to figure out your profits and losses if it's been a weekend or if it's been 3 years lost in the Feywild. Once you have this number, your characters need to pay their staff. On this table, an unmodified roll will give you a 5% chance of breaking even, a 30% chance of failure, and a 65% chance of making profit. And like that, we have a fully functional business. I know, some of you are thinking, these are weird, scary numbers. But you're an adult, and despite what my teachers said, everyone walks around with a calculator in their pocket. So make use of it. The only thing that I haven't really addressed with the current shipping business, there's a slight issue that I negated to mention. There is some sort of giant sea serpent in the harbour, making it impossible for ships to get out of dock, and therefore any shipping business is not going to make any money until that is dealt with. They will, however, still have to pay their staff. Not to mention, if you give out weird loot and the players are like, "The fuck is this?" they can be put into the business. This way it feels a little bit more satisfying, even though you're basically just investing with extra steps. And the last one I wanted to talk about, if the businesses get big enough and you want to have someone who can make magic items for them, you can have a highly renowned craftsman seek out your party wishing to get a job at their establishment. And if they choose to hire this person, they must pay extra on top of their minimum running costs. I've put some approximate costs here, but you can always adjust them if you need to. Hopefully though, you're beginning to see how this business can feed back into adventuring and how adventuring can feed back into the business, creating this nice little game loop. So if you have any other suggestions of how you could integrate it into your world that you think others would find useful, please leave it in the comments. And until next time, bye.